Continuation, Tractatus 3 or Chapter 3. How they come to us and become visible to us. All that God has created, He reveals to man and lets come before Him, so that man has and attains knowledge of all happenings of the creatures. Thus God has revealed the devil to man, so that man knows about the devil, and He has presented the spirits and other matters still more impossible for man to perceive. The angels in the heaven He has also sent down to man, that men may really see that God has angels who serve Him. Such revelations do occur, but rarely, only as often as it's needed to believe and have faith in them. The same happens with the beings about whom I am writing here. They appear also, not in order to have them all live or stay or mix with us, but God lets them wander to us, and He lets them come to us as often as it's needed for us to take cognizance of them and to know that God creates marvelous works. When He sends an angel to us, we learn that the scriptures speak truthfully of them. And once we know that of one thing, we know enough forever and ever, as long as the seed of man lasts, so that it is not necessary to present things every day. And thus God has also presented these creatures to men, has allowed them to be seen, to deal with people, to talk, and so on, in order that we may know that there are such creatures in the four elements, water, air, fire, and earth, who miraculously appear before our eyes. And in order that we may have a good knowledge of things, the water people have not only been truly seen by men, but have married him and have borne him children. Thus also the mountain people have not only been seen, but people talked to them and received money or coins from them. The same happened with the forest people. As mentioned before, the people saw them and dealt with them and walked with them. Thus also with the volcans, who also, as mentioned before, appeared to men and revealed themselves essentially who they were and what had to be understood of them all. And so many have been held before men that from them he may draw and take an adequate philosophy to be explored adequately in the works of God by the light of men, which has been given to men alone, beyond all other creatures. For the like must be perceived by its like. That is, man is a spirit and a man, eternal and mortal. From this reasonably follows a knowledge of the other things, namely that he is one who has been created from God after God. Thus man cannot philosophize at any time about anything unless he has a subject from which his reasoning springs and on which it is founded. If such a man is possessed by the evil spirit, he must now, at any time, consider what this means. For nothing exists that remains concealed and is not revealed. Everything must come out. Creature, nature, spirit, evil and good, outside and inside, and all arts and all doctrines, teachings, and what has been created. Sometimes such things become apparent only insofar as they are preserved in the memory of the people. They are still hidden and not generally known. It is not less true that man never becomes as apparent to others as these beings become apparent to men. The nymphs, namely, become apparent to us, but not we to them, except in what they tell about us in their world, as a pilgrim would who had been in a foreign land. They do not need such rapture the way the mountain people enrapture us, or the water people, for they have no power over men, and their world is not such that they could adopt us. Man is not subtle in body, but coarse in body, and subtle in chaos, while it is the contrary with them. Therefore, they can well stand our chaos, but not we theirs. Their element also is in itself their chaos, which to us may not be chaos. Thus, they appear to us, stay with us, marry with us, die with us, and also bear children. Now, the fact that they shall be revealed is equal to divine decree. God sends an angel to us, recommends his creature to him, and then takes him away again. And in the same way, these things are presented sufficiently before our eyes. This happens with the water people. They come out of their waters to us, make themselves known, act and deal with us, go back to their water, come again, and this to allow men to contemplate of the divine works. Now, they are men, but on the animal side alone, without the soul. From this it follows that they marry men. A water woman takes a man from Adam and keeps house for him and gives birth to children. Of the children, we know that they follow after the father, because the father is a man from Adam. A soul is given to the child, and it becomes like a regular man who has an eternal soul. Furthermore, this also is well known and must be considered that such women also receive souls by becoming married, so that they are saved before God and by God like other women. It has been experienced in many ways that they are not eternal, but when they are bound to men, they become eternal. That is endowed with a soul like men. You must understand this in the following way. God has created them so much like man and so resembling him that nothing could be more alike. And a wonder happened in that way they had no soul. But when they enter into a union with man, then the union gives the soul. It is the same as with the union that man has with God and God with man. A union established by God, which makes it possible for us to enter the kingdom of God. If there were no such union, of what use would the soul be to us? Of none. But now there is that union with men, and therefore the soul is of use to men, who otherwise would have no purpose. This is demonstrated by them also. They have no soul unless they enter into a union with men, and now they have the soul. They die, and nothing remains of them but the beast. And a man who is not in divine union is just like them. Just as the condition of these people is when they are in union with men, so is the condition of man when he is in union with God. And thus they demonstrate that they are beasts without men, and like them, men without divine union is nothing. The union of two things with each other can achieve so much that the inferior benefits from the superior and acquires its power. I will repeat that. The union of two things with each other can achieve so much that the inferior benefits from the superior and acquires its power. From this it follows that they woo men, woo meaning try to attract, and that they, the elementals, seek him assiduously and in secret. A heathen begs for baptism and woos it in order to acquire his soul and to become alive in Christ. In the same way, they seek love with men so as to be in union with men. With them, with the elementals, with them, all intelligence and wisdom are outside the qualities of the soul and not the soul. And so they receive the soul and their children also by virtue of Adam's fruit, freedom and power, which holds and carries them to God. One must also think of what God will do with them at the end, since they are so close to men and must be considered as wild men. Just as you say, the wolf is a wild dog, the ibex a wild he-goat, and such like. One must also know that not all of them may be married to us. The water people come first. They are the closest to us. Next, after them, come the forest people, then the mountain and earth mannikins who, however, rarely marry humans and are only obliged to serve them. The Vulcans or Salamanders never attempt to enter into union with humans, and yet they are apt to serve them. Know also that two of them, namely the earth mannikins and Vulcans, are considered spirits and not creatures, being looked upon as a mirage only, or as ghosts. You must know, however, that just as they appear, thus they are flesh and blood like another man, and with that quick and fast like spirit, as was told in the beginning. They also know all future affairs, present affairs, and the past, which are not apparent but are hidden. In that way they can serve men, protect, warm, guide him, and such like, for they have reason in common with men, except in regard to the soul. They have knowledge and intelligence of the Spirit, except in regard to God. Thus they are highly gifted, and they know and warn, so that men may learn about such things, and see them, and believe in such creatures. For this purpose God has let them appear to man, that he may seek knowledge and learn what God effects in such creatures. It is said of the nymphs that they come to us from the water and sit on the banks of the brooks, where they have their abode, where they are seen, taken also, caught, and married, as we said before. The forest people, however, are coarser than they. They do not talk. That is, they cannot talk, although they have tongues and enough of all that is needed for speech. In that point, they differ from the nymphs, for the nymphs can speak in the languages of the countries. The forest people, however, cannot talk, but they learn easily. The mountain mannikins are endowed with speech like the nymphs, and the vulcans speak nothing, yet they can speak, but roughly and rarely. The nymphs appear, as was said before, in human clothing, with human features and desires. The forest people are like men, but shy and fugitive. The mountain people are like men, not tall, short. Sometimes they reach about half the size of men or so, sometimes more. Thus, and in the same way, the vulcans appear, fiery, and fire is all over their features and clothing. They are the ones of whom one says, a fireman or spirit is going through the house. There goes a burning soul, etc. It often happens that such figures are seen. They also are the flames that are frequently observed as glowing lights in meadows and fields, running through each other and towards each other. These are the vulcans, but they are not found living with men on account of their fire. They are often found with old women, however, that is, with witches, wooing them. One also must know that the devil takes possession of them just as he does take possession of men, and thus goes around with them, appearing to the people in the features just mentioned. And this leads and brings them to the witches and many such matters that happen when things are possessed by the devil, but it would be much too long to describe them here. You must know, however, that there is danger with the fire people, because they are commonly possessed, and the devil thus rages in them, which causes great harm to men. Know also that he equally takes possession of the mountain people, and thus makes them subservient to him, and of the forest people also. He then can be found in the forest possessing sylphs and venturing to make love to women who live in forest regions. But they all become like lepers, scabby, and mangy, and there is no help for them either. When these beings are not possessed by the devil, they're human and seek union, as has been mentioned before, but they keep the way of spirits, so that they disappear. One who has a nymph for a wife should not let her get close to any water, or at least should not offend her while they are on water, And one who has a mountain mannikin with him should not offend him, particularly not at places where they can get lost. But when the humans here can get lost, not when the mountain people can get lost. But when they are so much obliged to men and so closely bound to him that they cannot get away from him unless there is a reason for it, and this happens at the place from which they come. If one has a wife, she does not get away from him unless she is provoked while they are on water. Otherwise, she will not disappear and can be held. The mountain mannikins also must keep their pledges when they are in service and have been pledged, but obligations to them must be kept also in all that is due to them. If duties are kept as should be, they are honest, constant, and intent on their work, and one must know that they are particularly loyal to men and much inclined to spending money. For the mountain people have money because they themselves coin it. So the mountain people have money because they themselves coin it. This is how it must be understood. What a spirit wishes to have, he has, and their wishing and desiring is thus. When a mountain mannikin wishes or desires a sum of money, if there is need for it, he has it, and it is good money. Thus they give money to many people in the galleries of mountains to make them get away. They buy them off. All this is divine order, that they thus appear to us, and that we see what is incredible to tell. Man is the most earthbound of all creatures. What he must have and wants, he must make for himself, and he obtains nothing by wishing and desiring it. But those people have what they need and desire, and man does nothing for it. They have it without work. I want to repeat, they have it without work. Tractatus 4, or chapter 4. As we came to the end of the treatise, we had sufficiently discussed the necessities of these beings and how they come to men. You must now furthermore know about their disappearance from men and about their doings with us, with many such tales and stories that have happened with them in many strange ways. And first about those who married men and bore them children, as was said before. When they have been provoked in any way by their husbands while they're on water, they simply drop into the water and nobody can find them anymore. To the husband it is as if she were drowned, for he will never see her again. And yet, although she dropped into the water, he may not consider her dead. She is alive, and he may not have taken another wife. He may not take another wife. If he did, he would have to pay with his life and could never return to the world, for the marriage is not dissolved but is still valid. It is the same as in the case of a wife who has run away. She is not divorced from her husband, nor he from her. It still is a valid marriage that has not been dissolved, and that nobody can ever dissolve as long as there is life. When she has dropped into the water and has abandoned husband and children, her marriage is still valid, and she will present herself on the day of judgment on account of her union and pledge. The soul, namely, is not taken away nor separated from her. She must follow the soul and hold to her pledge to the end. Although she remains a water woman and nymph, she must behave as such soul requires, and the pledge she has given, except that she is separated from her husband and that there is no return unless he takes another wife. Then she returns and brings him death, as has happened many times. It also happens that sirens are born. They are water women too, but live more on the water than in it. They are not split like fish, but are more like a virgin, yet their form is not quite that of a woman. They bear no children, but are monsters, just as a strange human being can be born from two normal parents. I would like to put it in thus: the water people reproduce themselves like humans, but when it happens that they produce a monster, these monsters are sirens that swim on the water, for they repudiate them and do not keep them. This is why they occur in many forms and figures, as it happens and is the case with all monsters. Thus we marvel not only at the water people, but also at the sirens, who have many strange features and are very different from people. Some can sing, some can whistle with reeds, some can do this and that. Monks are also born from nymphs, that is, a monster which is shaped just like a monk. Thus you must know, namely, that such growths that are comparable to man and are found in some places come from men, that is, they come from water people, earth mannikins, and similar beings. In order to understand the matter correctly, remember that God effects strange things in his creations. It is the same as with a comet. Born from other stars, the comet is nothing but a supergrowth, that is, a growth that has not a natural course, as a star should have, but has been directed by God on purpose into another course. This is why the comet has great significance, and so have the sea wonders and similar things, which thus came from water people. They too are such regular comets that God presents to men on purpose, not without meaning and significance. I will repeat: that God presents to men on purpose, not without meaning and significance. There is no need to write about it here, but this you must know, that great things come from such people who should be great mirrors held before men's eyes. But love has cooled down in many, and thus they pay no attention to the science, intent only on usury, self-interest, gambling, drinking, matters that are interpreted by these beings as if they were saying, "Look at the monsters, thus you shall be after that. Let yourself be warned, be aware," but nothing is done about it. To continue the discussion of these beings, know that such people also convene and assemble in one place where they may live together and seek intercourse with men, for they love him. The reason is that flesh and blood hold to flesh and blood. There are more women than men in such groups. Few men, many women, hence they're after men whenever they have a chance. From such people, a group originated that is called the Venusberg. It consists of nothing else but a kind of nymphs thrown together in a cave or a hole of their world, yet not in their own chaos, in men's chaos, but in their regionibus. Regionibus is a Latin word for countries. Know about them that they reach a very old age, but you cannot notice it because their appearance remains the same from beginning to end, and they die unchanged. Venus was a nymph, and Undine, who excelled others and reigned for a long time. But she died, and the succeeding Venus was not as endowed as she had been. She died in the course of time, and her kingdom vanished. There are many tales about her. Some people believe that she will live until the day of judgment, meaning she and her seed, not she alone. And on the day of judgment, all these beings will appear before God, will dissolve and come to an end. It is also said that those who come to them do not die either, but this is not true, for all beings end in death, and nothing remains, neither they nor other people, nothing is without an end. It is on account of the seed that all kinds survive to the day of judgment. There is a story about a different beginning. It tells of a queen who resided there and sank into the earth. It was a water woman who resided there. She went into the mountain under the pond that was above her in her region. There she took her abode, and for making love she built a gallery for her to get to the lads, and they to her. Such strange things happened there that nobody was able to report about these beings, what they were or where they were from, until it came to an end. It is quite possible that this could happen again should another nymph come equal to her. How often does it not happen that a man is amazingly superior to others, and then for many years there is nobody equal to him? Thus a special portent means omen, thus a special portent occurred about the nymphs, was called the Venusberg, after the idol of unchastity. Many such strange stories have happened on earth, but they have been greatly despised. Yet it should not be, because no such things occur without great attention being paid to it. Hence, they should not be despised. There is no need of writing about it here. There is also a true story of the nymph in Stauffenberg who sat on the road in all her beauty and served the Lord she had chosen. It is quite correct that to the theologians such a being is a devilish ghost, but certainly not to the true theologians. What greater admonition is there in the scriptures than to despise nothing, to ponder everything in mature understanding and judgment, to explore all things and dismiss nothing without previous exploration? It becomes easily apparent that they have little understanding of these things. Making it short, they call them devils, although they know little enough about the devil himself. This you must know, that God lets such miracles happen not to have us all marry nymphs and live with them, but once in a while, in order to demonstrate the strange doings of divine creatures, and that we may see the work of his labor. It is, if it were the devil's work, it should be despised, but it is not, for this he is not able to do. God alone is. Our nymph was a water woman. She promised herself to von Stauffenberg and stayed also with him until he married another wife and took her for a devil. The nymph, that is, he took for a devil. Taking her for a devil and considering her such, he married another woman and thus broke his promise to her. Therefore, at the wedding, she gave him the sign through the ceiling during the banquet, and 3 days later he was dead. It requires great experience to judge in such matters, for the breaking of a pledge never remains without sanction, whatever it may be, to uphold honor and honesty, and to prevent other evil and vice. If she had been a ghost, from where would she have taken blood and flesh? If she had been a devil, where would she have hidden the devil's marks, which always go with it? If it had been a spirit, why should it have needed such a being? She was a woman and a nymph, as we have described them, a woman in honor, not in dishonor, and this is why she wanted duty and loyalty to be kept. Since they were not kept, she herself, from divine destiny, punished the adulterer, for no judge would have passed a sentence at her request, since she was not from Adam. Thus God granted her the punishment that is appropriate for adultery, and permitted her to be her own judge, since the world repudiated her as a spirit or devil. Many more such things have happened that are despised by men, badly so, and it is a sign of great stupidity. We must pay equally great attention to Melusine, for she was not what the theologians considered her, but a nymph. It is true, however, that she was possessed by the devil's spirit, of which she would have freed herself if she had stayed with her husband to the end. For such is the devil, that he transforms these beings into different shapes, as he also does with the witches, transforming them into cats and werewolves, dogs, etc. This happened to her also, for she never was free of witchcraft, but had a part in it. A superstitious belief resulted that on Saturdays she had to be a serpent. This was her pledge to the devil for his helping her in getting a man. Otherwise she was a nymph with flesh and blood, fertile and well built to have children. She came from the Nymphs to the humans on earth and lived there. But then superstition seduces and vexes all beings. She went away from her people in her superstitious belief to the places where the seduced people come who are bewitched in superstition and spellbound. Mind you, she remained the same serpent to the end of her life, and God knows how long it lasted. Thus, these beings are warnings to us to make us understand what we are on earth and in what strange ways the devil deals with us and is after us in every corner. Nothing is hidden to him, neither in the depth of the sea, nor in the center of the earth where he dwells. But wherever we are, there is also God, who redeems those who are his in all places. It is stupid, however, to consider such women ghosts and devils on the basis of such happenings and because they are not from Adam. It is holding God's works in low esteem to assume that they are rejected because they have superstitions. Yet there are more superstitious in the Roman Catholic Church than in all these women and witches. And so it may be warning that a superstition turns a man into a serpent. It also turns him into a devil. That is, if it happens to nymphs, it also happens to you in the Roman Church. That is, you too will be transformed into a serpent, you who now are pretty and handsome, adorned with large diadems and jewels. In the end, you will be a serpent and dragon, like Melusine and others of her kind. Therefore, consider such things carefully, and be not blind with seeing eyes and dumb with good tongues, particularly since you will not let yourself be called dumb and blind. What follows is Tractatus 5 or chapter 5 on giants.